Uh, Good evening, India, and good morning, Canada. Uh, Today we have a session on a national education policy and its implementation. So, firstly, I'm giving a very thank you so much for giving the time to our panelist. So, firstly, I give you some introduction about the education policy. So, if I explain the NEP 2020, before I'll give you some introduction about the before past education policy. Like India, first education policy came in 1968 in Indira Gandhi ji government time, and another education policy is kind of second education policy during the time of Rajiv Gandhi ji. In 1992, some changes made by government of PV Narasimha Rao. After 34 years ago now, the National Education Policy 2020 came. The major changes in the last major changes is a right to education by changing in the constitution, introduce article 21A, where children of age 6 to 14 get free and necessary education. The last major changes in NEP 2020, a lot of major work has been done by the Modi government. This national education policy was in the manifesto BJP in 2014. A committee of formed in 2015 when Smriti Irani ji was the education minister, whose chairman was TSR Subramaniam, and he gave their first report on 7th of May 2014. The main changes at this report is to improve the quality of education, credibility of education, and addressing the gaps of implementation. So the major changes during the time of Smriti Ji Irani. So these are some changes. In October 2016, the ministry released their first draft and asked for suggestion, but some of these recommendations could not happen. After this, another committee was formed under the chairmanship of K. Kasturi Rangan, former ISRO chief, in which there were 9 people. This committee made the draft of national education policy and submitted in 2019, which was passed by Modi cabinet as the National Education Policy 2020. The major changes in national education policy is HRD minister now renamed as Ministry of Education, GDP investment in education to increase 1.6 to 6%, and focusing on gross enrollment ratio, it will be increased 50% by 2035. Now I call Mr. Aditya. He's doing PhD. You all knows from IIT Roorkee. He's the major coordinator of this event. Now I request to Aditya ji, please introduce the panel. Thank you. Over to Aditya ji.
Abhishek ji, धन्यवाद. Abhishek ji, Parthi ji is waiting for your actually acceptance. Actually, he's waiting. So
okay, accepted.
Okay. Okay. Hello everyone. This is Aditya Pandey from IIT Roorkee. So I am here to introduce, and if you don't mind, because most of the viewers of this FB live session is from Hindi background. So if you are comfortable with Hindi, so I can speak in Hindi.
You can speak in Hindi. I won't say my Hindi is great.
Means you all are comfortable.
I'm comfortable.
Sorry, unfortunately, I'm not I'm not fluent in Hindi, but I please go ahead and.
Okay, so for your convenience, yeah, okay. So what I will do, I will, for your comfortness, I will just repeat my words in English also. Okay. So we have, firstly, I will introduce Dr. Dhirendra Shukla. You are the chair in TME department, UNB Canada. You encourage startups and entrepreneurs from the university background students. You are basically a chemical engineer, and your father has done his degree from ISM Dhanbad. Now it is IIT Dhanbad. You have told me when I was in Fredericton, actually.
Yes, he's not keen on the name change, but I'm sure he'll get over it.
Okay, okay. And second panelist, we are having Dr. Ragini Sharma. She is MSW PhD. She is doing social and economic right as a social economic right activist in Canada over last 25 years. She's been associated with International Art of Living Foundation for last 15 years. She is the founding member of Hindu Heritage Month Committee of District School Board of Toronto. So we will be getting some social aspect of this national education policy here from her side. Third, we are having Dr. Sanjay Verma ji. He is the branch finance coordinator in Ministry of Toronto, Ministry of Transport in Ontario. He's been associated with our parent organization RSS for many years. He's working as a coordinator for Seva Canada. It's a social organization in Canada of our RSS. So he's coordinating for that also. Last, we are having Parthi Kandeval. He's a trustee in Toronto District School Board. He's the teacher in Satya Sai School of Mathematics. So his views on managing the new education policy in India will be a remark for us. So we are waiting for his remark because you are associated in teaching as well as in management. So it will be helpful for us because our organization like Vidya Bharati is managing hundreds of schools in Uttarakhand alone. So we are waiting for your remarks in new education policy that how we can manage and how we should proceed with this new policy. Lastly, we are having one student, Kshitij Anand. He is the student in dental hygiene program in Canada. Earlier, he has done his MBA. He has done BDS and DA from India. So he is the major, you can say, the connecting link between the new education policy and the former education policy, because he has studied the Indian system also, and now he is studying in the Canadian system also. So his remarks will be beneficial for us. So for Hindi viewers, I can say just in few words, I will finish myself. डॉक्टर धीरेन्द्र शुक्ला, आप यूएनबी कनाडा टीएमई विभाग में चेयर के पद पर कार्यरत है। यूनिवर्सिटी छात्रों में नए स्टार्टअप शुरुआत करने, एंटरप्रेन्योर में पैशन डेवलप करने में आपका विभाग महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका अदा कर रहा है। बेसिकली केमिकल इंजीनियर बैकग्राउंड से आते हैं आप। आपके पिता आईएसएम धनबाद से अपनी डिग्री पूरी कर चुके हैं। डॉक्टर रागिनी शर्मा, आप एमएसडब्ल्यू में पीएचडी हैं। पिछले 25 वर्षों से लोगों को उनके आर्थिक, सामाजिक, राजनीतिक अधिकारों के प्रति जागरूक करने में आपकी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रही है। आप इंटरनेशनल आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग फाउंडेशन में विगत 25 वर्षों से सक्रिय रूप से जुड़े हैं। हिंदू हेरिटेज मंथ कमेटी डिस्ट्रिक्ट स्कूल बोर्ड टोरंटो की आप फाउंडिंग मेंबर हैं। संजय वर्मा जी, आप मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्ट ओंटारियो में ब्रांच फाइनेंस कोऑर्डिनेटर के पद पर कार्यरत हैं। आप सक्रिय रूप से विगत वर्षों से सामाजिक कार्य में लगे हैं। अपने मातृ संगठन आरएसएस के सेवा कनाडा अनुषंगिक संगठन में आप सक्रिय रूप से कार्यरत हैं। आज के कार्यक्रम को मूर्त रूप देने में आपकी भूमिका महत्वपूर्ण है। पार्थी कंडेवाल, आप टोरंटो डिस्ट्रिक्ट स्कूल बोर्ड में ट्रस्टी हैं। सत्य साई स्कूल में गणित विषय के अध्यापक हैं। आज नई शिक्षा नीति पर आपके द्वारा दिए गए विचार हमारे विद्यालय संगठन विद्या भारती को मैनेजमेंट संबंधी तथ्यों पर निश्चित रूप से महत्वपूर्ण इनपुट देंगे। क्षितिज अनंत, आप वर्तमान में स्कूल कनाडा में डेंटल हाइजीन प्रोग्राम के स्टूडेंट हैं। इससे पूर्व भारत में बीडीएस डीए एमबीए की शिक्षा पूरी कर चुके हैं। दोनों देशों की शिक्षा पद्धति को आप करीब से वर्तमान में देख रहे हैं, इसलिए आपके विचार नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी के लिए महत्वपूर्ण रहेंगे। ओवर टू यू अभिषेक जी।
Thank you so much. Again, welcome to all. Thank you for giving us important time. Uh, Now I will give a small introduction about the विद्या भारती उत्तराखंड ऑफिशियल्स। मैं अभी आपको अपने साथ दो लोग की लोग जुड़े हैं मेजर, जो पूरे विद्या भारती उत्तराखंड स्टेट का कार्य देखते हैं। फर्स्ट इज श्री भुवन जी। भुवन जी, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत इस कार्यक्रम में। आप राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ के प्रचारक हैं। आरएसएस इज द मेन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एंड राइट नाउ इज हैंडलिंग द एजुकेशन वर्क इन विद्या भारती। आप लगभग 10 साल से शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में काम कर रहे हैं और एक सोशल एक्टिविस्ट हैं। और विद्या भारती के देश भर में 12,500 स्कूल हैं। 12,500 schools is running by Vidya Bharati, and in Uttarakhand we are running around 700 schools. तो जो 700 schools विद्या भारती उत्तराखंड एक स्टेट में चलते हैं, आप उन 700 schools को देखते हैं। He is a state organization secretary. Now the another person is डॉक्टर विजय पाल सिंह। डॉक्टर विजय पाल सिंह जी, आपका स्वागत। आप लगभग 20 साल से शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में जुड़े हैं। यू आर वर्किंग इन एजुकेशन फ्रॉम लास्ट 20 years. Now he is working as a director in Vidya Bharati Uttarakhand. Thank you for coming. Now I'll again over to Aditya ji for each panelist can put their views on education, kind of education, not specific to national education policy, but kind of education.
Thank you, Abhishek ji, for briefing about Vidya Bharati. Now I would like to invite Dr. Dhirendra Shukla for his views about new education policy and what he feels about the Canadian education system and Indian education system. Like, what are the major gaps he is having, or what the major gaps he can identify. So it will be great input for us. Over to you, Dr. Shukla.
I will point out that very early on in my career, I studied in India. I left India when after finishing grade 8. So that was very, very early on. So what I can say is that you can have multiple policies and that can be quite inspirational, aspirational, all of those elements. Ultimately, it comes down to implementation. So, you know, when you were talking about Canadian, you were talking about the education system in India, the policy work and all of those things, I think they're quite fundamental. But I think if you step back, the educational system that was set up during, just after independence in India, the question I think that should be reflected is, when they were set up, what progress has the Indian education system made since then? And there should be clear benchmarking of the Indian education system at all aspects and all levels. So I'm not saying where does Indian education system rank in terms of world rankings and stuff. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I was trying to say is that even internal benchmarks, where is India trying to get to? And policy work is, while it's very important in showing that India is looking at transforming its education, and India as an economy, as a country, as a nation, and as people, we respect, appreciate, and have a central focus on the education system. But if I was to be critical, so while I mean, you pointed out my father went to Indian School of Mines, and a very proud alumni. My grandfather, we come from a remote village in Uttar Pradesh. He founded schools, colleges, all those elements. So we are, all those things are great. But the question is, year to year, what has been achieved? If you don't benchmark and you don't measure, you will never come out on top. So I'll give you an example of what we did in Canada. When I joined the University of New Brunswick in 2009, we were a very small center of about 10 to 12 students. And right now, what we did was over 5 years, we've grown to over 600 students. We've become nationally the biggest and the largest and the most successful entrepreneurial center. We're recognized as the most successful entrepreneurship center in Canada. But this happened over a 5-year period. That aggressive nature of doing things, accomplishing things are fundamentally the most important thing. So I think since independence, India has the foundation of a strong education system, a community that loves education and its educators. Yet the aspiration to be leaders in education, the driving force to we are going to be known as a leader in education for these areas or disciplines, those aspirations are missing. And as a result, the people that are hungry for these educations and these opportunities leave India and are successful around the world. And the Indian system has not been able to find a way to interact with not only the Indians that have left India, but how about those other intellectuals from around the world that love and respect education as much as Indians do? How do they intersect in India? How do they come and contribute to Indians and in an Indian way? Not saying that India needs to become something else, but how do people around the world intersect with India and find the respect that Indians give to education? How can we as a community uplift Indian education? My challenge is, where is the Indian education system going to be in the next 5 years? And those benchmark needs to, if it's benchmarked, every year we should see that national progress. So I love policy, but the next big thing is in terms of implementation is going to be key. And we should be able to unlock and break those traditional policies that were set in place to develop new policies. You know why the education system around the Western world was set up? And why were so many universities set up? It was primarily set up post World War II. It was set up to empower the factories of the world. So primarily people educating, graduating were to go and fuel the factories. The world has changed. India has a unique opportunity that the entire Western civilization hasn't figured out how to transform its education system from a manufacturing-based education system to a different knowledge-based education system. India, if it plans to leapfrog everyone, needs to figure that out. So all of it is benchmarking and really not worrying about politics. And I think that is some of the things that is holding Indian education system back is this, the political scenarios that play out holds India and Indian people back. I'm coming from a person that goes to India every year to recruit, meet, engage. We've formed partnerships with IIT Dharwad, IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, Manipal. We're recruiting, we're bringing, engaging. I go and interact every year. how do we uplift India to a point where we are thinking that how do Canadian students and Western students and African students and Asian students go to India to learn because Indians have figured it out, not the other way around. My 2 cents, sorry. Handing it back to you.
थैंक यू डॉक्टर शुक्ला। डॉक्टर शुक्ला ने अभी हमें बताया किस तरह से भारतीय जो शिक्षा के भूखे थे, स्वतंत्रता के बाद उन विषयों को हम शिक्षा पद्धति में लागू नहीं कर पाए जिनकी हमें जरूरत थी। इसके तुलनात्मक अध्ययन करके शुक्ला ने बताया कि किस तरह से वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 के बाद मेजर वेस्टर्न यूनिवर्सिटीज इसलिए बनाई गई जिससे औद्योगिक घरानों में उनको रिक्रूट किया जा सके। That was the major gap that he has pointed out, that after independence we were not able to make it commercialized. Am I right, Dr. Shukla?
Yes, after independence, the history, देख अपना अगर इंडियन एजुकेशन सिस्टम को देखा जाए, कहाँ शुरू हुआ था और अब कहाँ है।
Yes.
हम लोग अगर सोचें कि कहाँ है, हम लोग खुश हैं उससे?
Of course not. That's why we are having new education policy.
और इसीलिए जब आपने बोला कि इस पैनल में बात करना है, तो मैं तो थोड़ा हिचकिचाया कि मैं क्या कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकता हूं। आप लोग तो इंडिया में हैं, इंडिया के सब जानते हैं, पर मेरा यही मानना है कि मैं जब भी जाता हूं, मैं सोचता हूं कि इतने दुनिया में इंडियन सब जगह जाके लोगों को सिखा रहे हैं कैसे किया जाता है, और वहां अब इंडिया जो जिस तरीके से एजुकेशन सिस्टम बना था, क्यों नहीं अब तक वहां से लेके कहीं और तक पहुंच पाया।
Your department is also a good example for us actually. आप सभी को बताना चाहूंगा, डॉक्टर शुक्ला ने 5 साल में इस टीएमई डिपार्टमेंट, टेक्नोलॉजी मैनेजमेंट एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप डिपार्टमेंट को नई ऊंचाइयों पर पहुंचाया। और कनाडा और वेस्टर्न कनाडा के, तो ईस्टर्न कनाडा के मेजर स्टार्टअप्स इन्हीं के सेंटर से आ रहे हैं। अभी जब मैं वहां पर था तब भी डॉक्टर शुक्ला लगातार हर वीक नई टॉक्स कराते थे, एंड आई यूज्ड टू बी अ पार्ट ऑफ दैट। दैट वाज एक्चुअली अमेजिंग। एंड in new education policy, you will be happy that our Prime Minister is supporting new startups and entrepreneurs like IIT Delhi. He has started the PhD program. They are not supposed to write their thesis. If they are having their own startup or some entrepreneurship thing, that can be okay for their PhD actually. So that is what IIT Delhi has started. So you will be happy to hear that.
That's very
and
good.
You are regularly visiting the IITs and major colleges in India, and research grant in new education policy is supposed to be increased. It is proposed in the new education policy, and let's see how things moves. Like in Canada, we are having, in China, we are having like 150 to 200 research scholars per million. But in India, it is just 15 or 20. So it is almost tenfold difference between us and China. So new education policy imposes such remarks and steps that how we can encourage a student to be in research and entrepreneurship. So it's a good move in my view. So let's see how things move. But I appreciate your efforts that you have done in UNB as a chair of TME. आपने 5 सालों में जिस तरह से नई ऊंचाइयों पर पहुंचाया, और उसने आपने रेफरेंस भी दिया अपना कि भारतीय बाहर जाकर कैसे ढंग से काम कर रहे हैं। और ये दूसरों के लिए उदाहरण तो बन पा रहे हैं, लेकिन अपने देश में कैसे काम होना चाहिए उसको राजनीतिक रूप से, जिस तरह से पिछले कई वर्षों में हम लोग उभर नहीं पाए राजनीतिक कारणों से, चाहे वो किसी भी तरह से रहे हो, वो आपने बड़े बखूबी अपने उद्बोधन में बताया। अब हम नेक्स्ट मूव करते हैं, आपके पास लास्ट में कुछ क्वेश्चन आंसर के लिए हम आते हैं।
ठीक, थैंक यू।
ओके डॉक्टर शुक्ला,
एकदम एकदम।
now I will invite Dr. Ragini Sharma for his views on new education policy.
नमस्ते फ्रॉम टोरंटो। कुछ हिंदी में बोलती हूँ कि विद्या भारती हमने मुझे निमंत्रण दिया, इसके लिए मैं बहुत आभारी हूँ। और एक्चुअली मैं मेरी माँ जो है नैनीताल से थी, उनका जन्म नैनीताल में हुआ था, तो उत्तराखंड से हमारा जुड़ा हुआ है हिस्ट्री। और उनके पिताजी वो चीफ कंजर्वेटर ऑफ फॉरेस्ट रहा करते थे ब्रिटिश जमाने में। और मेरे पापा पिताजी यूपी के इरिगेशन डिपार्टमेंट में इंजीनियर थे। तो नैनीताल और उन सब इलाकों में मैं काफी घूमी हूँ। सो मेरा कनेक्शन है, और आप लोगों को बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन, आपने इतना अच्छा काम किया है। मेरी शिक्षा जो है लोरेटो कॉन्वेंट में हुई थी लखनऊ में, और वहाँ पे तो खूब इंग्लिश बोलना सीखा मैंने, और संस्कृत हिंदी थोड़ा बहुत सीखा, उसके लिए मैं मुझे बहुत आभारी हूँ। बाकी इंडिया के क्लासिकल अपने योगा, इंडियन आर्ट्स, अपने इन चीज़ों के बारे में तो कुछ नहीं सीखा। वहाँ पे वेस्ट के सिविलाइजेशन के बारे में खूब सीखा, और ये भी सीखा कि मुगल का पीरियड गोल्डन था, और मराठा छोले के बारे में कुछ नहीं सीखा। तो ऐसे ही एजुकेशन मेरे ख्याल से कॉन्वेंट्स में हुआ है, और जो एलीट हमारे हिंदुस्तान में है, गवर्नमेंट में, सरकार में, यूनिवर्सिटीज में, उनकी भी सोच ऐसी ही है। लेकिन लकीली यहाँ इंडिया के बाहर आके कुछ जागृति हुई कि हिंदुस्तान के बारे में कुछ प्राइड होनी चाहिए। तो अब मैं इंग्लिश में बोलूंगी, क्योंकि अब इंग्लिश में ही 40 साल से बोल रही हूँ मोस्टली, और मेरी यहाँ पे हायर एजुकेशन पीएचडी सब इंग्लिश में ही है, तो क्षमा करें। Coming to today's discussion, the government's efforts are definitely to be applauded. Change has been overdue. But we need to pause here and ask ourselves, what is the purpose of education? So I believe the purpose of education is not stuffing children with information, but rather to nurture their creativity and curiosity, and learn. They should learn about dharma, respect and love for Ma Dharti, for Rashtra and for Sanskriti. I've heard in NEP talk that they want to create global citizens, but charity begins at home. Indian children need to be good Indian citizens first and have pride in their own heritage. I came to Canada in 1978, and both my children were born and educated here. School started at age 4 in junior kindergarten, and every school day starts with the children singing "O Canada," the national anthem. Physical education and arts and music is part of daily activity. The children are streamed into science and arts in high school, but the emphasis is on developing their self-confidence, creativity, and critical thinking. For example, from grade 1 onwards, students learn to stand up in front of the class and do something, sing, tell a story, present an idea or project. They have character education here. Every month, a character value is given, such as respect of honesty for students to learn about. Every high school student must complete 100 hours of community service in order to graduate. This is to awaken a spirit of service in each student. Admissions into professional university programs such as medicine, law, business are based not only on marks, but also on applicants' extracurricular activities. Emphasis is placed on compassion, creativity, leadership, and volunteer work is valued. So I did look at the top 10 major reforms in education proposed in the NEP, and I'll speak on a few of them. Introducing school at age 3 is an excellent. instead of age 6. It's well known early childhood education improves school outcomes. I would suggest, especially in rural disadvantaged areas, that early childhood education be expanded to engage with the mothers. The Art of Living Foundation has used the schools in tribal areas to educate women in hygiene, in skills, and to organize them for small business. It's a model worth looking into. This is especially possible in India because the Anganwadis and preschools will be carried out jointly by the Ministries of Education, Women and Child Development, Health and Family Welfare, and Tribal Affairs. So that's an opportunity they need to look into. The idea of internship and vocational education from class 6 is I find very interesting because vocation is where the jobs are. But because I've been a social worker in child welfare, I do worry about what arrangements will be made for the safety of young students in these vocational placements because they're not adults. The emphasis on mother tongue as a medium of instruction is critical. As Modi ji remarked, most countries who are leaders in technology and innovation, for example, Japan, China, Korea, France, Germany, have their mother tongue, not English, as medium of instruction. However, it's disappointing that this is merely a recommendation and not mandatory. It's being left to individual states as a choice. The big challenge for the government will be to develop books and resources to support education in so many different languages. I also feel education in mother tongue needs to go further, including mother tongue being used in testing for university entrance, civil service exams. I feel that English apartheid, as some people have called it, needs to be removed because the government can achieve better access and equity for those who do not speak English. I agree with the NEP's stated goal of no rigid separation between science, arts, commerce streams. This is part of our ancient civilization, but I worry about how it's going to be implemented. In my view, India does not need to copy the West, but to create, as Japan and Israel did, for example, its own unique educational system. India has a rich and varied heritage that did not see science and arts, science or spirituality as separate. It's why our ancient Gurukul system nurtured giants of knowledge in math, art, dance, architecture, urban planning, politics, administration. The NEP policy aims at making India a global knowledge superpower. But how do we achieve that without having a national narrative that instills pride in themselves and their own civilization? One of the stated aims of the policy is to instill a deep-rooted pride in being Indian. But how is that to be achieved? Is education in human values, yamas and niyamas included? How is it to be done? I cannot imagine any progress in that direction unless the textbooks on Indian history are rewritten to teach the students about its rich heritage in arts, science, of its valor, high values, and achievements. Who are the scholars the Indian government is consulting with to address this very important goal in the NEP? Who will NEP hire to rewrite the textbooks? I would recommend scholars such as Rajiv Malhotra, who be consulted about what Indians need to learn about India's culture and history. Rajiv points out that the educational system in the West has an inbuilt pride in its Greco-Roman history. Their Western culture is based on the Greek and Roman classics. Students learn about these classics so they have a sound and strong foundation for thinking in order to move their own civilization into the future. They're educated about their Western identity and their culture. They have pride in Western civilization. What about Indian students learning about their identity and having pride in Indian civilization? For 70 years, unfortunately, in the name of progress, modernity, and political correctness, Indian students have not been taught India's classic. We show no pride or interest in our classics. The equivalent to Greek classics would be India's Vedas, Puranas, and other Sanskrit, Pali, and Tamil texts. Indian students should learn about Panini, Patanjali, Buddha, Shankara, Abhinav Gupta, Kalidas, Aryabhat, and dozens of other great classical thinkers produced by India. That would lead pride in India's heritage and its amazing contributions already to world civilization. The whole world is interested in Vedas, Upanishads, yoga, Ayurveda, Vedic math, but they're not being taught in Indian schools. Unfortunately, a great disservice has been done to Indian classics by equating them with religion. India needs to realize and capitalize on the most comprehensive and challenging knowledge representation systems available outside the West are Indian classics. Indian classics are over 100 times as large as Greek classes, but they're unknown to Indian students. As Rajiv points out, we see Indian NRIs in high positions in the West, and the previous speaker spoke about that. In medicine, biotechnology, management, in most prestigious organizations and corporations in the world. But India is unable to supply world-class scholars in the disciplines of its own traditions. I even heard that more yoga teachers are supplied to to China from US rather than India. We find the best research libraries of Indian classics in the West. Religious studies is the hottest academic field in humanities in the US. 100 books on the Patanjali Yoga Sutras have been written, mostly by Westerners. It's a huge interest, but it's non-existent as a discipline in Indian universities. It's the price we pay for being secular. It's embarrassing for India when most Padma awards in Sanskrit are given to professors from Western universities, and they're considered the highest authorities in our own Shastras, even on the Ramayana. Is the current NEP going to address such questions? Indian students are forced to go to the US, to the UK, to German universities to get an internationally competitive PhD in Sanskrit, in yoga, in Hinduism, in Buddhism, and Jainism. Is there a university in India where they can teach, even teach when they return to India? Does NEP address this? Furthermore, the marginalization of Indian heritage in the education system, particularly in the English medium system, produces leaders in the Indian society, such as in industry, civil service, media, education, that are culturally alienated from their rich history. India needs to have leaders who have pride in their country and civilization, like all other countries do. Thank you for inviting me, and my naman to all those who are present on Facebook and on the panel. Namaste.
थैंक यू रागिनी जी। आपने अभी बताया किस तरह से हमारे वेद धर्म के बारे में हम लोगों को इतना जागरूक नहीं कर पा रहे जितना वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में हमारे स्कॉलर्स जाकर कर पा रहे हैं। किस तरह से संस्कृत की पीएचडी डिग्री लेने के लिए भी हमें यूएस तक जाना पड़ रहा है। तो ये एक चिंताजनक विषय है। और आपके लिए बताना चाहूंगा, अभी जो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में इस तरह के सभी विषयों को एड्रेस करने के लिए वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम शुरू किया गया है। उसके बारे में जो आपने चिंता बताई है किस तरह से चाइल्ड लेबर, चाइल्ड ट्रैफिकिंग बढ़ सकती है, तो वो एक चिंता की बात है। और ये इसके बारे में अभी ओपन डिस्कशन चल रहे हैं किस तरह से 6th स्टैंडर्ड से वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग को कन्फाइंड किया जाए जस्ट फॉर वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग, नॉट फॉर द एम्प्लॉयमेंट, बिकॉज it will increase the child labors if we start the vocational training at the age of 10 or 11. Like people will be doing mechanic work or something, so it will deviate from them. It will deviate them from the education. So it's a major concern from your side. And for your reference, government is also concerned about that, how we should stop this child labor by imposing the vocational training at the same time. राजीव मल्होत्रा का आपने एग्जाम्पल लेकर बताया किस तरह से वो राष्ट्रीयता के विषय में अपने विचार रखे कि हम अपने बच्चों को क्या पढ़ाएं क्या ना पढ़ाएं, किस तरह से अपने पाणिनि, पतंजलि, इन सब मूल भारतीयों के विषयों को अपने करिकुलम में शामिल करें। आपके लिए बताना चाहूंगा, विद्या भारती अपने सभी विद्यालयों में, जिस तरह से आपने बताया कि ग्रेड 1 से हम बच्चों को स्टोरी टेलिंग एंड दे हैव टू स्पीक इन फ्रंट ऑफ 1000 or 100 students. So in our Vidya Bharati system, we are having such system also. Even I have studied in the Vidya Bharati school, and there was actually one session every day or every one bi-weekly. Like if we are having some birthday of some great leader like Gautam Buddha, Mahavir, or Lal Bahadur Shastri, so we have to speak about them on every birth anniversary. So Vidya Bharati has made their schools like that. They have to spend some time on this kind of activity. That's why our students are having playing major role in education system nowadays. Occupying most civil servants. Like in Vidya Bharati has produced more than 20 SDMs in last 3 or 4 years. So that's a major concern that you have raised, but Vidya Bharati already doing that. हम अपने सभी महापुरुषों की जयंतियों पर इस तरह के कार्यक्रमों को शुरू से ही आयोजित करते आ रहे हैं और आगे भी इस तरह के प्रयास जारी रहेंगे। अब मैं इनवाइट करूंगा संजय वर्मा जी को। ओवर टू यू संजय वर्मा जी।
धन्यवाद। मैं चाहूंगा कि ये समय जो है पार्थी जी को दिया जाए, बिकॉज हिज कंट्रीब्यूशन टू आवर एनईपी एंड सजेशंस वुड बी मच मोर। सो I think I would hand it over to Parthi ji. You can give me the next opportunity.
Hello, Mr. Parthi. Over to you.
Namaste, everyone.
Sanjay ji, namaste.
Thank you, Aditya ji, Abhishek, everyone here for inviting me on this panel. It is a privilege. I'm sorry I cannot speak in Hindi. My mother tongue is Tamil. We came here when I was 6 years old, and we grew up here, but we always visited India. We're devotees of Sri Sathya Sai Baba, and with his divine blessings, I have the opportunity to serve as a teacher in his school, in the Sri Sathya Sai School of Canada, and also have with his blessings, to be elected in 2014 and 2018 as a trustee of the Toronto District School Board. And my contribution today, I'll speak on the role of a teacher and the role of management of public education. So as a teacher, I have the fortune, my grandparents were teachers, my parents were teachers, and I followed in that field. And as the national education policy is being developed, I am happy to see the reforms brought in by Shri Narendra Modi ji to make the teacher education component higher and stronger. That's an important part of improving education, is who do we put in the classroom? One comment that was made earlier, unfortunately, though the British left in 47, some of their practices have continued, including how they approached education, and creating workers for a factory, as Shukla ji mentioned, is unfortunately one of the remnants of the British system. If we look back to our own heritage, the reverence given to a teacher has been, even before God, we say Mata Pita Guru Devam, right? First mother, father, and the teacher before God, that was the reference. The reason I share that is because the quality of the individuals we put in the classroom is of paramount importance. So how do we do that? In Canada, we have a system where to become a teacher, you have to have a 4-year bachelor degree and a 2-year master's degree that specializes in teaching. So that is something to be considered. Also, the salary. To attract good candidates and good teachers, you need to have a good salary. In Canada, the average teacher salary or median teacher salary is above the median salary across the board. if you look at Scandinavian countries that perform the best on the international exams and testing, in Finland in particular, their teachers are paid almost the same as doctors, if you can imagine that. And the respect given to them in the society is at that level. So when you create the conditions, whether it's compensation or salary, and the respect given, you're going to attract the best candidates. So I think as the policy unfolds, if we attract the strongest people, it will produce the results will be seen in the students they have. The second point I want to mention, I think it may vary across India, but in our Ontario system, Ontario is the biggest state in Canada, the teacher teaches all the subjects from age 4 to age 14. So from kindergarten to grade 8, the teacher will teach all the subjects. And the reason behind the success and the significance behind it is the teacher is with the children for 6-7 hours a day. And that creates, very similar to our Gurukul system from thousands of years ago, it creates a very strong bond between the teacher and the students. And that enables them to not only teach the curriculum, but create the relationship to teach those character, human values that is very central to education. Sathya Sai Baba says the end of education is character. We don't create people for a living, for a job, but for life. So I think that is not new to Indian and Hindu perspectives on education, that the role of the teacher is to create these values and relationships. So I think that is something we have to go back to. And I'm not sure what the policy states, but that's something that it should be given consideration, that the one teacher is with the group of students for the whole day instead of different teachers, because as a result, when you have 4 or 5 different teachers in one day, you have a different relationship with each teacher, and therefore that bond isn't there. The second piece is the class size. Again, this may vary. I know India is very, very diverse. I know in some situations you have a teacher teaching 40, 50 students. That will not produce the availability, the time, the opportunity for this teacher to be able to reach every student. As we know, all children, all humans are different. They will learn in different ways. Some students can learn orally. Some students need to see a visual in order to understand the topic or the concept. So the teacher needs to use different strategies. So having a class size of 40 is very, I can say that as a teacher, I'm very lucky. I have 22 students in my class, and I have the ability to teach each of them to their own particular way. And just as an aside, you guys might be interested, at our Sathya Sai school, all our children are second generation Indians. And in my class, I have students whose mother tongue is Punjabi, Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu, and it's a very Malayalam. It's a very interesting kind of representation of India. That's something I thought you would be interested in. So the importance of the teacher is very important. The class size. So this will result in funding. So if the state or the local school authority is looking to improve the performance, the reality is funding will have to be increased to reduce the class size and to increase the compensation of teachers to attract the best candidates to be teachers in these classrooms. So that's 2 pieces that I think from a policy level need to be considered. And obviously it has budget implications of the state budget and of course the national budget. Which brings me to, I think, the management perspective. So as a trustee, it's a very unique position. It's an elected position. We're elected every 4 years with the city councillor and the mayor. There are 22 of us who represent the city of Toronto, which is about 3 million plus. And our purpose as a trustee is to ensure there is accountability and transparency on the funding and allocation of the education money. We receive the money, the funding for we have 583 schools, but all the funding comes from the state government. In Canada, we call it province of Ontario. It comes from the state government. So we ensure the $3.4 billion is spent wisely, correctly, and there's accountability. So that's the first role of a school trustee. The second, from a management angle, is the parent's voice. So another remnant of the British system was that we trusted the school system. The parent comes and drops the child, son or daughter, off at the school, and there's not much engagement with the school or with the class teacher. This is different here in Ontario. We have an active parent council. So the parents of the local school have the opportunity not to control, but to give advice and to give feedback to the school principal and the teachers. So this is a very important part that allows a partnership between parents and the school principal and the teachers. And that's something to consider. And as a trustee, I serve as a mediator, if there are concerns or any problem between the parents and the school, I'm able to facilitate and solve the problems. And thirdly, the trustees, we set the policy. For example, we have a uniform policy that applies to all the schools in Toronto. So we as a body of 22 people. So this is a very interesting concept. I'm unsure if in India you have the concept of a school board. So in Canada, the state makes the education policy, but locally dependent on the various, if it's a rural community or a city or urban community, the school board can tailor the education policies to suit the interests of the local area. So, and those, we as trustees are elected. We're not like an MP. We don't have a big salary or any staff. We're just one person. It's a part-time role. And many of us have a full-time job. I'm a full-time teacher. A colleague of mine is a nurse, and one is a lawyer, and others an engineer. So we do different professions, but the role of the school board is to provide accountability and to have parent voice on what is happening in the school. So that is something I'm unsure if in India it is being considered, but it allows to strengthen the parent relationship and the community relationship with the school. I'm open for questions, but those are the big recommendations or suggestions I would like to convey in this conversation today. One is really that, and many others speak, Ragini ji really spoke very well to going back to our rich cultural heritage when it comes to education, and the importance of who is teaching cannot be stated. The guru, because let's be honest, a teacher is not just imparting mathematics curriculum, science curriculum, language curriculum. The teacher is setting the example, the mold, and is really a guru in terms of the values, especially at the youngest ages from 3 to 13. And who we place in the classrooms is very important. And I'm happy to see the recent changes is a positive start towards that. And I'm always available to give any advice or feedback from our perspective here in Toronto, Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Parthiji. You have asked one question that if we are having the school boards at the district level. So we are not having the boards at the district level, but at the state level, we are having the education board of the each school of the each state. But at the district level, we don't have it. We are not having. And I want to ask one question that you have remarked that there are a system like age 4 to 14, the teacher has to engage with the entire class for the entire day.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes, with the exception of certain subjects like music, specialty computers, gym, but all the major subjects, so mathematics, English language, science, social studies, drama, visual arts, all conducted by the core teacher.
Okay.
Mm.
And one more thing, you have said that the funding and allegations are managed by the district school board.
Mhm.
Is it?
Yeah.
So if any advice came from the parent side, then how you address that issue? Like if my child is not doing this good in this subject or something, so what is the role of district board there?
So if it's to do with the child and the teacher, the teacher, and if the parent feels the teacher is not maybe treating the child well or teaching properly, they would be able to speak with the principal. And if the principal is not doing anything, then this is our role to come in to ensure there's a balance of power. Because traditionally, if the parent didn't have voice, then the issue is finished. Principal will say, leave the school. But now they have somebody to talk to make sure the problem is at least addressed and the question is answered. So a child, very common issue, my child is being bullied, right? And especially in Canada's very diverse society. Even I was growing up, I'll tell you a funny story. When we came to Canada, I was 6 years old. One of my first memories was being called Paki. Paki. That was the slur, the insult. It's very ironic because obviously I'm not Pakistani, but and they would call our bindi or pottu, as we call it in Tamil, they would call it Paki dot. That's what we were called when we were very young. That was the insult. So if that is happening and the teacher is not doing anything, the teacher might be white, doesn't care about racism, principal might be white, does not care, then you at least have a voice to somebody who you vote for. There's a accountability aspect. So then I have to take it seriously, right?
Okay. So now I can summarize your statements in Hindi.
Of course.
Okay. Okay. So पार्थी जी ने हमें बताया कि इस तरह से गुरुकुल शिक्षा पद्धति के तौर पर ही कनाडा में भी एज 4 से लेकर एज 13-14 तक बच्चों को एक ही टीचर के पास रखा जाता है पूरे दिन, उसी के साथ रहकर जो गुरु शिष्य का उन्होंने रेफरेंस दिया कि किस तरह से गुरु जो है माता पिता के बाद आता है भगवान से पहले, तो उस तरह की शिक्षा पद्धति इनमें बता रहे हैं कि कनाडा में भी है। और हम लोगों ने 1947 में अपनी आजादी के बाद इन सब मूल्यों से हमने पीछे हटकर एक स्कूल बेस्ड सिस्टम, जो फैक्ट्री ओरिएंटेड सिस्टम बनाया था, वो किस तरह से खतरनाक हुआ देश के लिए, ऐसा पार्थी जी ने अभी हमें बताया। और हमें ये बताया कि कनाडा में डिस्ट्रिक्ट स्कूल बोर्ड्स की क्या अहमियत है। हमारे देश में राज्य स्तर पर बोर्ड संचालित किए जाते हैं, लेकिन डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल बोर्ड ऐसा कोई पद्धति हमारे यहाँ नहीं है। तो इन्होंने बताया कि डिस्ट्रिक्ट स्कूल बोर्ड में किस तरह से हर तरह के फंडिंग और एलिगेशन संबंधी सभी शिकायतों का निवारण डिस्ट्रिक्ट स्कूल बोर्ड का कार्य होता है। और इस तरह के काम के लिए जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट बोर्ड बनता है कनाडा में, टोरंटो शहर के बारे में इन्होंने बताया कि 30 लाख की आबादी पर 22 जनों का चयन मेयर और सिटी काउंसलर्स द्वारा किया जाता है। और ये सभी 22 जो ट्रस्टी होते हैं स्कूल बोर्ड के, ये जरूरी नहीं है कि ये फुल टाइम टीचर हो या शिक्षा जगत से जुड़े हो। विभिन्न क्षेत्रों के विभिन्न आयामों के लोग, शिक्षक, वकील, इंजीनियर, इन सभी को इस ट्रस्ट में जगह दी जाती है। और उसी के आधार पर जितनी भी शिकायतें आती हैं उसका निवारण डिस्ट्रिक्ट बोर्ड पर ही किया, डिस्ट्रिक्ट बोर्ड के द्वारा ही किया जाता है। तो पार्थी जी के द्वारा हमें इनपुट दिया गया है कि यदि डिस्ट्रिक्ट बोर्ड पर भी, डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पर भी बोर्ड बनाया जाए तो स्कूल मैनेजमेंट काफी अच्छा हो सकता है। पार्थी जी, is it audible?
Yeah.
I want to make a one point from our side, like an organization Vidya Bharati. So in Vidya Bharati, we are having district level organizations also. You are saying not on the government level, but on the Vidya Bharati organizational level, we are having some district level organization. So we are cross-checking the efficiency of the schools, inspecting the schools regularly. We are having regular inspection. That is a cross check actually.
Very good.
one teacher from the one district to the another district. They are visiting whether the school is doing good, whether teacher is treating the students well or not.
Mhm.
So it is a monthly or bi-monthly exercise that we are inspecting the schools on the
Mhm.
cross-check level, like district levels also. So every school is inspected, every teacher is inspected, and every student has to make their notes properly. It is checked. They are
Very
making or not, whatever. With the every aspects of the school is checked by this inspection. So for the district level or for the state level, we are not having any board of this type, but our organization is doing this practice for last 15 or 20 years.
Aditya ji, please take it
So it's a
forward
good
first.
sign for
Yes, we have
yes.
already 8 now.
Now,
So
okay. Now I will invite Sanjay Verma ji for his views.
धन्यवाद एंड नमस्कार सभी को। मेरे पास बचा ही नहीं कुछ बोलने के लिए, क्योंकि अधिकतर आगे के जितने गेस्ट हैं उन्होंने काफी कुछ कवर कर लिया है। तो मैं केवल अपना एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करना चाहूंगा कि मैं बचपन से जो हूँ, लाइक आई मीन आई वाज मोर इन्वॉल्वड इन स्पोर्ट्स एंड बट आई वाज ऑलवेज इन अ स्कूल। मैं मुंबई का निवासी रहा हूँ, मेरी पैदाइश मुंबई की है, पर मूलतः मुजफ्फरनगर से डिस्ट्रिक्ट से हूँ, मेरा परिवार जो है, एंड मेरी ससुराल देहरादून में है, तो मेरा उत्तराखंड कनेक्शन एक तरह से ये है। सो लाइक आई वाज लाइक इंटरेस्टेड इन स्पोर्ट्स, लेकिन मेरा जो स्कूल था इट वाज अ ब्रिक एंड मोर्टर, यानी कि कंक्रीट बिल्डिंग थी, एंड वी डिडंट हैव अ प्लेग्राउंड, तो आई कुड नेवर participate in any sports and all that, and we used to play gully cricket. So that was my and because of my sporting activities, I would be almost in trouble all the time, because I was physically quite stronger than the other kids in the area. So apart from this, like my education, I am a chartered accountant from India, and I have my CPA from US also. And abhi yahan Ministry of Transportation mein I am working over here. So my observations on NEP, जिस प्रकार के मैंने रिव्यू देखे हैं YouTube पर या Twitter पर या Facebook पे, तो सभी जगह इसका अच्छा रिव्यू मिल रहा है। पर मेरा संशय ये है कि क्या कुछ प्रश्न मेरे दिमाग में ऐसे उठे हैं कि क्या ये जो NEP पॉलिसी है, ये पश्चिमी सभ्यता की कोई, जिस तरह की हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, ये इज दिस अ कॉपी पेस्ट ऑफ द वेस्टर्न एजुकेशन सिस्टम? देन इट इज समथिंग कंसर्निंग टू मी, बिकॉज हम लोग जो हैं वो ये कॉपी पेस्ट में काफी महान है, तो ये ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए। सो बॉटम लाइन इज, व्हाट इज इंडियन अबाउट दिस पॉलिसी? दैट इज माय क्वेश्चन टू ऑल द पैनलिस्ट ओवर हियर. And if at all it is a copy paste of the Western policy, then have the negative impacts of the Western policy also be taken into consideration, because there is a huge dropout ratio over here of kids. So how do you, if we are using the Western model, then how are we going to tackle that part of the dropout ratio over here in context of NEP? And जैसे रागिनी जी कहा कि यहाँ कनाडा में जो है हर सवेरे जो है वो कनाडा का नेशनल एंथम गाया जाता है, तो जिस तरह से हमने वातावरण देखा है JNU में कि भारत तेरे टुकड़े होंगे एंड ऑल दैट, हम नहीं चाहते हैं कि ये माओवादी विचारधारा का एक और यानी कि संशय खड़ा हो जाए इस NEP के माध्यम से। तो एंड राइट फ्रॉम स्कूल लेवल ऑनवर्ड्स, ये तो अधिकतर JNU में कॉलेज से देखा गया है, बट हम चाहते हैं कि again, so the element of how Indian is this policy, does it goes to our root level? Because I heard that पंचायत लेवल तक का भी इनपुट लिया गया है इस पॉलिसी के लिए, बट एट द सेम टाइम 70 साल की आजादी में कितना इसमें वो इंडियन एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में जहाँ हमारी केवल मुगलों का वर्णन किया गया है, so much of negative impact has got into inbred in the education policy. कि even if the input at the panchayat level has been taken, but is it worthwhile? उसका कोई मापदंड है कि भाई इसमें कोई is there any validity in taking that input at all? Then the second thing which I come to is I was speaking to a senior citizen friend of mine जिन्होंने 1960 के आसपास कभी IIT कानपुर से अपनी इंजीनियरिंग की थी. तो वो सज्जन बता रहे थे कि and he is still part of the alumni and they go and visit in IIT Kanpur कि West में all these major institutions they research and innovation के ऊपर इतना stress है, जैसे कि शुक्ला जी बता रहे थे कि I have this thing, a neighbor of mine, his son is PhD in genetics. So any patent which comes out from the university, there's a 40-60 sharing ratio between the when that patent gets registered and any company is willing to buy that patent. So is tarah ka the focus on research is very less or virtually negligible in the Indian institutions. That capacity has to be created. So maybe startup के माध्यम से जो भी और avenues available हैं उनके माध्यम से अगर कुछ इस प्रकार का शुरू होता है, but that is a focus that the policy should take into consideration. This another thing is mentoring. क्या हमारी शिक्षा संस्थानों में mentoring का प्रावधान है कि एक गाइड की तरह कोई जो है, अगर कोई बच्चा is an intelligent child and he has got some either in education or sports or whatever, in any faculty that the child is good, तो उसका hand holding यानी कि उसको मार्गदर्शन करते हुए आगे तक ले जाए. तो I came to know about this organization called National Entrepreneurship Network, which does the mentoring. And I think they do it after graduation or during graduation. That can also be taken into consideration when developing this, taking this NEP policy forward. कि भाई किस तरह से मार्गदर्शन किया जाए बच्चों का right from school level to whatever their capacity develops at a later date. Then क्योंकि भारत में इतनी सारी भाषाएं हैं और इतना यानी कि विभिन्न we have this thing bouquet of so many things. So कनाडा में ये सुविधा है कि यहाँ पर हर सुबह मॉर्निंग अनाउंसमेंट होती है और किसी एक विषय को लेके उसके बारे में विवरण दिया जाता है. तो that sort of thing, and intercultural or different languages can be shared in the form of morning announcement कि भाई जो साउथ में जो है वो ओनम का त्योहार है, या केरला में जो है यहाँ ऊपर होली या और कोई जो भारत के अन्य भागों में जो त्योहार हैं उसकी जानकारी दूसरे दक्षिण भारत में मिले या दक्षिण वालों को जो है उत्तर भारत का या ईस्ट वेस्ट पूरा पश्चिम के हिसाब से. तो ये है कि there will be an intermingling and people, all the kids, बच्चों को जो है एक लेवल पे आने का मौका मिले. The next point I would suggest is again I would point out to Rajiv Malhotra, who has a very good experience in at various forums. So I heard in one of his talks that he was interacting with the Indian Administrative Services officers, and कई लोगों को what is the grand narrative of India इसके बारे में ही पता नहीं है. And अधिकतर क्या होता है, IAS officers or IPS officers, they are appointed as collectors or Indian Foreign Service में है. तो कोई मुद्दा ऐसा आता है जो कि politically motivated हो या कुछ हो, उसको किस तरह से handle करना है अब जैसे बॉर्डर रिलेटेड इश्यूज हैं, वहां पर अगर किसी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सर्विस वाले को इन्वॉल्व होना पड़ गया तो ही वो सही निर्णय नहीं ले पाता है, क्योंकि उसका जो अपब्रिंगिंग, जो एजुकेशन हुई है, वही उसमें त्रुटियां हैं, एंड like he is not able to take an appropriate decision as to what direction is supposed to be given. So and henceforth we need think tanks for the education policy, which kind of continue tweaking it throughout for the success of this education policy. सबसे चिंताजनक मुझे विषय ये लगा कि मेरे जो फैमिली में हमारे भाई साहब और हमारी बहन जी के जो बच्चे हैं, मोस्ट ऑफ देम आर स्टडीइंग अब्रॉड. ये जो चलन चला है बाहर जाके शिक्षा ग्रहण करने का, this is the current education policy is pushing out kids to reach out to foreign institutions, which is not a good strategy, because there's a huge brain drain happening over here. And India में क्या जो students रह गए हैं, they are kind of, मैं शब्द जो है शायद I think it will be bit harsh, but I would say substandard लोग बच गए हैं, because जो जिनके अच्छे मार्क्स वगैरह आते हैं वो IIT वगैरह में जो मेजर प्रेस्टिजियस इंस्टीट्यूशन है उसमें चले जाते हैं, एंड दोज किड्स आर टेकन IIT से जैसे निकलते हैं, मोस्ट ऑफ दीज कंपनीज अब्रॉड, गूगल वगैरह जो है इनको एब्जॉर्ब कर लेती है. देन आफ्टरवर्ड्स जो सेकेंड लेवल रह गया है, दोज किड्स they are like my niece, she appeared for the NET and all that. She got admission in some godforsaken college somewhere in another part of India. She didn't want to go over there. So now uske paas kya madhyam reh gaya hai? Only choice is to go abroad and study abroad, because the fees are, in comparison to Indian system, is cheaper outside. So the second level of students batch, they are also going outside, so there's another brain drain. So एक तो top level का है वो brain drain हो गया, second level है वो brain drain हो गया. बचा क्या है? तो आपकी जो भारतीय व्यवस्था है वो किसके हाथ में रह गई है? It's the, like, जिस तरह कहा जाता है कि most of the professional courses जो है डॉक्टर इंजीनियर बन जाते हैं, तो पॉलिटिशियन कौन रह गया? जो बचे कुचे जो है पॉलिटिशियन बन जाते हैं, और ये भारत की धरोहर उनके हाथ में है. एंड एग्जैक्टली द सेम वे ये जो पॉलिटिशियन जिनको मैनेज कर रहे हैं, जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव सर्विस है, वो भी एक तरह से जो है निम्न वर्ग के लोग रह गए हैं उसके अंदर. सो देश आगे कैसे आएगा? सो दैट इज, अब इसमें मैं भी, मेरा भी, यानी कि मैं भी भारत छोड़ के यहाँ आ गया हूँ, मुझे भारत में होना चाहिए था एक तरह से. सो मैं यहाँ पर अपनी बात समाप्त करना चाहूंगा कबीर के एक दोहे से, कि पूर्व में आगे चलकर जो है हमारे गुरु किस प्रकार के होने चाहिए. तो ये दोहा जो है वो सही तरह से दर्शाता है, गुरु गोविंद दोऊ खड़े काकू लागू पाए, बलिहारी गुरु आपनो गोविंद दियो दिखाए. नमस्ते.
धन्यवाद संजय जी, आपने बड़े ही सटीक और कड़े शब्दों के साथ अपनी बातों को रखा. इसके बारे में हम बाद में क्वेश्चन आंसर राउंड में डिस्कस करते हैं. अभी मैं क्षितिज अनंत जी से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि वो अपने बातों को रखें, और आपसे मैं चाहूंगा कि आप दोनों सिस्टम को जान रहे हैं. अभी कनाडा में भी आप पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं और अभी इंडिया से ही पढ़ाई कर गए हैं, तो किस तरह के बदलाव आप देख पा रहे हैं दोनों एजुकेशन सिस्टम में? तो उस पे यदि कुछ प्रकाश डालेंगे तो बेहतर रहेगा. क्षितिज जी.
Well, thank you so much for having me. First of all, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका. I'm very grateful, very thankful कि I'm in such a esteemed panel. Thank you so much. So, I would like to begin by having a small game actually. All my fellow panelists like Mr. Parth, Dhirendra ji, Sanjay ji, Ragini ji, all of you, have you heard of a name called Edward Bernays? No? Okay, okay, awesome. Thank you for indulging me. Edward Bernays is a very, very famous social scientist. We all know what is a scientist, right? Social scientist hona matlab people who study society, human society, you know. So why am I talking about Mr. Edward Bernays today in 2020 when we are discussing NEP? I'll tell you. Now I'll tell you a story. But before I do that, first thing about me, I'm Kshitij Anand. Thank you so much. And in India, I did my dentistry. I worked as a dentist after graduating for 1.5 years. I had a clientele of 1,000, 1,200 clients of my own. And then in 2015, after working for 1.5 years, I came to Canada. Okay. In Canada, I did my MBA here actually. And then I worked in a dental chain. I was a financial coordinator. I saw how things work and blah, blah, blah. And now I have progressed forward. And now I'm slowly moving towards dentistry in Canada. Let us see. Okay. So to address what you have said is a very valid point. And I'll be making 3 points. Simple 3 points. Okay. Simple 3 points. One, education in India, before I came and now it is very different. When I was there at that time, I think in my like undergraduate, like, in my, wait, let's go even beyond that. In my 10th and 12th, like I was not a very good student, apparently, at that time, education is not, a young guy's priority. It's not. In fact, like, it used to be a medal that, array, teacher today, the teacher has thrown chalk at me for paying, not paying attention. It was a medal, guys talk, it was a medal. अरे आज मेरे पे पेन फेंका गया क्योंकि मैंने पढ़ाई नहीं करी क्लास में होमवर्क नहीं किया. So at that time it was a medal. But I think when I slowly I kind of grew up, I became slightly more mature, थोड़ा सा और अकल आ गया मुझ में. I realized कि यार थोड़ा पढ़ना लिखना चाहिए, and I began to study very hard. Indian education system का क्या है दिक्कत? At that time, I am a very varied person. I had interests in psychology उस समय. I had interest in archaeology, healthcare, of course, injection वगैरह, and I had an interest in management. The problem is I can choose only one at that time. So I chose, doctor, right? Doctorship. I luckily got through certain examinations. So I think that has always been a regret. The Indian system was very linear. You make one choice in your 10th grade and you hope to God all is well, someday in the future it works out. Otherwise you're screwed. But let's see. So I did that and then I worked for a while, but that feeling that I want to be more educated. I want to learn more about psychology. Edward Bernays. I want to learn more about, infrastructure. I want to learn about management. I want to learn how do these giant corporations like Tesla, SpaceX, Lucid Motors, Microsoft, Xerox, it's a company. How do they function? Yes, I had an interest. So anyway, I came to Canada, did my MBA. And this is where I can see a very specific difference, I think it's called intersectionality, bit of this, bit of this. So in Canada, I was very surprised when I first came in 2015. Culture is different, education system is different. And over here, when you study, you are not expected to depend 100% on examinations. Examination is a component, assignments are a component. And I think we call them, in India, we call them GDPR, I think, group debate and personal interview, PI, sorry. So group debates are a very big component. And the last component is industrial field visits. I'm happy to say I have actually visited Bombardier, the company. I have seen their industrial floor and we have been taken around by those managers. They have shown us giant cranes and how they function. So, it's not just the theoretical component, it's the practical component, which really helps a lot, And as some other esteemed panelists were mentioning that in Canada, they make you stand up in front of the classroom, you talk, you speak. Same thing, it was a very new experience for me because at that time, remember, at that time, pre-2015 or whatever, in India, like there was a thing, ask questions, good, but not too much, after exam, like, after class, you can ask or whatever and take your time. Here, I can ask so many questions that often class had to be extended. So so that is my first point. That is the key fundamental difference. Pre-2015 education system in India was very, very linear. You make one choice, you stick to it. There is no major or master, subjects. I'm sorry, major and minoring of subjects. Those of us in Canada, they know what I'm talking about, right? In, I think, 10th grade in Canada, you can learn woodworking. You use wood, lakdi, and you can build things out of that. It actually counts as a subject, right? So I am very happy that the NEP has finally come. And I think I was telling my parents, yaar, kash main ab 10th mein hota. Seriously, I'm serious. I wish now I was in 10th. Seriously. I want to learn physics and music along with economics. Why the hell not? Okay. So that's my key observation, that now our system has finally caught up with it. I think in business, they call it, the term they call it is bringing up to code. You're bringing your system to match a certain list of recommendations, bringing up to code. Okay, that's my first point, that it used to be restrictive, but I think now we're on the right track. Second point, why did I mention a social scientist ka naam? Like, why is it so important? Why is Mr. Edward Bernays so important? I tell you why. A lot of us here have a common theme that, we may not like India, or like when we are young, ki foreign jana hai and all that, when we are young, right? At least most people I know. So that's because of something called, and remember, my expertise here is not like, you all are amazing, but my expertise is humble, much more humble. It's in towards healthcare, dentistry. In that, luckily, they teach us psychology, bits and pieces of psychology, different types of personality, different people, how to handle them, how to speak, the correct tone of your voice and all that. They teach you certain aspects of this. Okay. Edward Bernays was a very wonderful social scientist. He is, by the way, in the world of business, known as the father of public relations. Google what is public relations, you'll know what I'm talking about. Marketing. Let's play a second small game. We all know smoking is slightly harmful. No judgment, no judgment. You enjoy a good smoke, no problem, no judgment. But we all know it causes problems, right? Breathing problems, long-term maybe cancer. And yet people do it. Why? Why do we do it? We know it's harmful. We do it. Why? We give justifications. Yaar, aaj main stressed hu. Today I'm tired, yaar. Lendana, yaar. I've seen all that in college, right? Marketing. Marketing is the secret. Marketing or public relations or psychological manipulation is the secret here. That is the fundamental problem. It's not Indian people, Indian culture, Indian education system, as not this panel. Many people talk, "Are yaar, hamare log aise." No, it's not that. Psychological manipulation. There's a very famous book. It's called Education System in Ancient India by Sadhna Singh. Check it out. Till the 18th century, India had 700,000, 7 lakh Gurukuls schools. And it had, I think, in 5-digit, like higher education systems, 68% of all students used to be from lower socioeconomic background classes. They used to teach, and I kid you not, they used to teach subjects like metallurgy, physics, astronomy. Those are the subjects they used to teach in India to Indian students till 17th and 18th century. Coming from healthcare, dental background, I'll tell you something which will shock you guys, okay? It'll shock you guys. 1798, there was a very famous barber, the guy who cuts hair. At that time, we had multidisciplinary approach. In India at that time, a barber, jo baal kaatta hai, also used to do surgeries. So in 1798, after a famous battle, I think it was Hyder Ali ka battle, Google it, a very famous English general, his nose was cut off as an act of shaming him. So he went to, I think it was around Pune, and he met a very famous barber. And he said, "No worries, I'll fix it for you." And this is documented, actual facts. You can Google it. It's in the British Medical Journal, British Medical Archives. Usme hai ye, it is there. 1798, I think. Yeah, 1790s mein, 1798. He took a small flap. Yahan se usne skin cut karke laga diya. Within 3 months, 4 months, the entire nose, it grew back. Puri jo naak thi, agar main Hindi mein baat karun, it came back. And that, lady and gentlemen, is the world's first successful, today we call it plastic surgery. एंड आप सोचिए क्या हुआ, वही नॉलेज उसको डॉक्यूमेंट किया गया, इंग्लैंड से डॉक्टर्स आए सीखने के लिए, दे टुक दैट बैक, एंड विद इन 12 years 1810 1812 में द ब्रिटिश मेडिकल सिस्टम वाज एस्टैब्लिश्ड. तो आप समझ रहे हैं जो संजय जी कह रहे थे ब्रेन ड्रेन है, ये आज की बात नहीं है. आई मीन ब्रेन ड्रेन आज हो रहा है, पहले इट यूज्ड टू बी नॉलेज ड्रेन. इट इज द अदर वे अराउंड, वी हैव लॉस्ट ऑल आवर नॉलेज. आप समझ रहे हैं, इट इज बीन हैपनिंग सिंस 18th century. And so everything went to hell after 1800, 1830 mein, when mycology came, and we all know what happened, right? Why is the second point so important? Is because Mr. Macaulay used something called psychological warfare. Now I will speak in Hindi. अगर मैं आपको हरा नहीं सकता शस्त्रों से, through weapons and all that, अगर मैं आपको नहीं हरा सकता, the absolute best way to defeat you is to demoralize you. I have to shame you, humiliate you, embarrass you, demean you, make you feel small, that, hey, you know what, you're not as qualified as me, I know better, in a subtle way. I have to do that. And then automatically you will become insecure. And that is what was done with India through the Indian Education Act, which was shoved down on our throats in 1834. After that, our entire education system was very, very linear. It became very linear. जो हमारे गुरुकुल थे वो बाहर गार्डन में, गुरुकुल से अंदर स्कूल में आ गए. And as some other wonderful panelists have said, it was because of, at that time there was an industrial revolution, right? The 4 great revolutions. I think Dhirendra, you can back me up on this, right? The 4 great revolutions, right? Industrial, then telecommunication, and I think, yeah. So because of that, they wanted to print out basically workers. And they wanted workers who were blind followers, obedient, who never thought for themselves. जो कभी खुद से कभी ये खड़े होकर ना बोले, you know what, I think हमें आज़ाद होना चाहिए. I think we are smart. I think we are intelligent. I think हमें शायद, किसी और की बात नहीं सुननी चाहिए. So please understand, this is my second point. Psychological warfare, you can look it up. It's a wonderful term. That is what has been done with us. We are victims of psychological warfare. We are taught only negative things about ourselves. हम backward थे, हमें ये था, हमें ये problem थी, we were not good enough, we are not united. Absolute, to put it mildly, absolute balderdash. We were very united. That is how we have been able to sustain our culture and civilization. If you go to UNESCO and UN websites, whatever, planet Earth had 47 civilizations, distinct, unique, खुद का language, खुद का culture, unique 47 civilizations. Today one survives. एक. Can anybody here guess which one? सिर्फ एक. One. Make a wild guess. It's us. हम बचे हैं. Thank you. I'm so sorry I interrupted you, Mr. Parthi ji. I saw your mute. It's us. 46 civilizations gone in the mist of time. Egyptians, Romans. Do you guys know India used to trade with them? In 300, 200 BC, आज से 2200 साल पहले, रोम, ग्रीस वगैरह में, there used to be debates पार्लियामेंट में कि अरे यार रोको यार, इंडियंस को बहुत पैसा मारा जा रहा है. And the opposing, जो उस समय थे opposition team के member or whatever, opposition political parties, they said, we can't do that. Our ladies, they love Indian silk, they love Indian, stuff. हम नहीं रोक सकते, हमारी ladies को Indian silk चाहिए. They want those things. Latest निकला है जो Egyptians थे, 4000 BC, आज से 6000 साल पहले. Mummy होती है, right? They used to keep their dead in coffins. Do you know the silk they used to wrap came from India? America in 16th century used to send ships full, empty, khali ships, khogla. They wanted nothing, we wanted nothing from them. They used to send full ships, giant ships in 1683, I think, 1663, Google it. They used to send them and they used to come just for one thing, spices, masala. And there's a very famous story, Indian king who was selling all that. He said, I have seen everything in my life, but मैंने कभी बर्फ नहीं देखी. Can you imagine 16th century में US से ship निकला, ton बर्फ लेके, बर्फ. this is amazing. I'm deliberately switching between English and Hindi, don't mind everyone, right? To, make a key impact. So this is who we were. And this is the fundamental problem. We don't know who we are. हमें पता ही नहीं है. We only know what the British has told us. कि हम निकम्मे हैं, हम कायर हैं, हम कभी लड़े नहीं, हम हमेशा हारते रही. भाई भाई भाई, हमें कौन बचाएगा आपके अलावा, right? And that is the fundamental problem. I don't know why I'm too young for these things. Somehow after independence, that colonial system continued. Today, everything we know about ourselves is written by Western Indologists, Western people who study Indian culture, Indologists. Everything we know is by them. So they will teach us Sanskrit, they will teach us Ramayana, they will tell us these are mythologies and myths, they will teach us our history, they will teach us कि अरे इंडिया तो कभी यूनाइटेड था ही नहीं. How can that? Which is so ironic. Europe or whatever, I'm not being personal here, they did not exist till 11th century. But India has Vishnu Puran, 500 to 1000 BC. It openly says, in Hindi, Sanskrit तो मुझे आती नहीं, माफ करिए, but I wish I knew, sadly. जो देश मेरा है वो मेरा वो देश है जिसमें 3 तरफ पानी है, ऊपर हिमालय है, ये है हमारा भारत. This is openly written in a 200 BC or 500 BC ka text. Verifiable. India was very much there. That is the second point. I'd like to end here. The second point, कि this is the problem. Psychological brainwashing. We don't know हम कौन है, हमें पता ही नहीं हम कौन है. हमें बस ये पता है what today, even today the problem is same. We know what Netflix, Amazon, Twitter, I don't know, Instagram tells us about ourselves. India में ऐसा होता है. And then we read and think, oh really? अच्छा, is that how we are? अच्छा, okay, हम तो ऐसे ही हैं. That is the problem. Lack of self-confidence, which comes from psychological warfare, psychological brainwashing. I'd like to make a point. Google is your friend. Look for Macaulay letters. Macaulay letters. He has written in his own books, in his own letters, India has been conquered once. The second conquer of India must be done through education. He has openly written it in his own text. I will not say other thing what he has written. I might be labeled whatever terms nowadays are floating around. Look it up. He has written very specifically जो Indian culture है उसे खत्म करना है, तभी they will become our servants. We want to create a class of men who are English in taste, appearance, जिनको English चीजें बहुत पसंद है, हमें सूट टाइप पसंद है, but they are not Indians. जो दिखते हैं Indian से पर है नहीं. That is the fundamental problem. Now, third and my final topic is कि the Canadian system is very wonderful. I am not going to rehash and repeat what my much more obviously experienced panelists than me have said. I will not repeat that, but they're absolutely right. And but here is one thing where I agree with Sanjay ji. We cannot blindly copy and paste. We can't do that, and I'll tell you why. India has 19,500 languages. We have 22 official languages. We have 2 national languages. And which there is a contention, bone of contention on that. Never mind. But you know which one. You know what I mean. Right, Parji? You know what I mean. Huh? The point is, Canada has a unified approach. Here, all states, or as we call them, provinces, teach the same history. General basic history, not micro-local. General basic history is same. Year of country ka background is same in a single language. What I'm saying is that we should be proud of our regional language. We should be proud of them. We should be loving them. Unity in diversity. That is the way we already are last 2000 years. But we should have an optional that you study your language, no problem, but make one language compulsory. Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Northeast to Maharashtra, please make it compulsory. Otherwise, how will we even talk? अगर हम आपस में बात भी नहीं कर पाएंगे, if we cannot communicate with each other, how will we ever progress? Oh, by the way, speaking of Northeast, my third topic is history. I love history. Ironic, right? Most people hate history. I love history. I hated history when I was in school. Some babbar is there, some king is there. I don't know what kya ho raha hai. I'm in the last bench and I'm playing pen fight. It's a game which you play with pens. आप pen लड़ाते हैं आपस में. I hope my parents are not watching this, but anyway. So I used to do that last bench mein. Ironically, now after graduating, 5 years ho gaye, bachelor's khatam kare hue, now I'm learning history, And I began by picking up a book called An Advanced History of India by R.C. Majumdar. Remember this book? One book of history which covers everything. 5000 BC से लेके 1947 तक. One book. The one book which you want to read has everything in it. An Advanced History of India by R.C. Majumdar. Lambi book hai, but worth it. I was blown away. The culture which we have, I mean, the songs, the dances, the foods, the music, the art, unmatched. I'm still reading it, by the way. Please don't quiz me. Here's the problem. In Canada, technically, there is no such thing as Canadian. Technically. We have people from France, Germany, Denmark, Italy, Holland, Poland, Ukraine in Canada, right? I'm sure my Canadian panelists will agree with me. There is no such thing as Canadian food, is there? We have Indian food, we have South Indian food, we have North Indian food, East Indian, West Indian, Central Indian, Middle Indian, Northeast Indian, Gujarati food. We have so much. Canada has only one thing, food. I say, I'm not joking. My Canadian colleagues in my MBA, I asked them, so what is Canadian food? They were thinking, what is Canadian food? And then they said, I think maple syrup. Yeah, that qualifies as Canadian. Purely Canadian. I don't know about that also, but anyway. But here is my question. Canadians are proud of Canada. Even though they are different jigsaw pieces put together, Italian, German, whatever, they are proud of Canada. India has a culture, history, civilization, food, dance, which is unique. No other civilization on planet Earth has what we have in Indian manner. And still we say, Array, India did not exist before 1947. There is no such thing as Indian. Array, how can you say that? Do you see the problem? 3 fundamental points I have made with 3 basic problems. 1, psychological brainwashing, so that we become colonial servants. We always respect anybody with an English accent, and even I can do that fake accent. I call that fake accent, but I never do that. I don't do that now. I don't do that. But with my colleagues and all that, I'm trying to learn more Shuddha Hindi nowadays. So I have really changed, man. 2015 I was a different guy. But that's what happens. The self-confidence which comes when you know who you are, where you come from, is so important. All my life, I was told to hate myself. I am backward, I am inferior, I am stupid, I am conquered. Not at all. History is taught to us in pieces. Example, we are taught there was some dude called, what's his name? The Great, Alexander the Great. He came, he defeated us. Then we jump straight to 400 AD. The Mauryan Empire and Kalinga, I think Odessa today we call that. Kalinga were fighting, लड़ लिया आपस में. देखो हम लड़ते रहते how bad we are. Beach में we have a quick detour ki King Ashoka was, he converted to whatever Buddhism and all that. Then we jump straight to 15th century. Akbar ji aa gaye, the great Akbar aa gaye hamare. That's fine. It's fine. Ko jo bhi aaya. Then we jump to 1947 and ho gaya. History book khatam. My question is, I hope NEP, I'm finishing, I promise. I hope NEP addresses these 3 issues. Psychological brainwashing should be removed. Psychological warfare is the actual term. Google it. Psychological warfare. Google it. I hope that is addressed and removed. 2, I hope the correct culture and history of our country, which is inclusive. It includes everybody. हमारे पास सूफी संत हैं, हमारे पास ईरानी हैं, हमारे पास like all cultures, all religion. हमारे पास पारसी हैं, हमारे पास ज़ोरास्ट्रियंस हैं, हमारे पास सब है यार. हमारे पास कौन नहीं है? हमारे पास Jews भी हैं, right? We have Palestinians. Today we call them Palestinians. We have everybody, पर हमें पता ही नहीं है, right? So that's the second point. And third point is we should not blindly copy paste. I hope that is not done because a foreign system is very good. Framework is great. It should not be blindly be dragged ki bhaiya, because we have done that once in 1834. We know what has happened today. We are communicating in a foreign language right here, right now. I have always seen, and this was a very big shock. Merely, it was a very big shock when I saw Arab people, German people, Even Russian people I've met here, my MBA program was very diverse, right? Korean people, they're proud of their culture, they're proud of their history. They talk in their language, ghar ke andar bhi. Wow, look at that, right? And last point I'd like to make is we are often told, we need to learn English, otherwise how will we get jobs, right? If that was true, I don't think we would have any Polish, German, Dutch, Ukrainian, Russian, or Arab doctors in US or Canada or Europe. That is an excuse, make no mistake. वो एक excuse है, था, रहेगा. Okay, so last sentence to summarize all what I said is, I'll quickly pull up something which I had written. Please give me one tiny moment. It's right here. It's worth it. It's worth it. Give me one moment. Okay, so the first step, I hope the NAP does is removes people like Max Mueller. He's the one who distorted our religious books. H. Risley, by the way, जो so-called great caste system है, is a British invention, just to let you know. 3,400, 3,400 के आसपास caste बनाए गए हैं by the British, by H. Risley, Google it. Thomas Macaulay, हमको तो पता है, the one and only great man, Thomas Macaulay, who put English everywhere, right? और एक और नाम है हेनरी ग्रिफिथ. हेनरी ग्रिफिथ, ही वॉज द वन जिसने हमारे वेद पुराण में कमियां निकाली. साइंटिफिक नहीं है, नॉनसेंस है, अरे रियल नहीं है. सो इट इज वेरी आयरॉनिक कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया क्रिएट्स पोस्टेज स्टैम्प्स टू ऑनर ऑल दिस पीपल. इन सबके स्टैम्प निकलते हैं, बाय द वे. इट्स अमेजिंग. हाउ मच मोर ऑफ अ colonial hangover do we need? बस ना, हो गया, बस, enough. Let's move on. Let's be Indian. Let's be proud of ourselves. That's all. The end.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kshitij ji.
Yeah.
You have great words, and might be we'll take your time with or for more than 2 hours. Then
Please do.
Definitely.
My apologies. From a very young age, my 10th grade, I have been giving, I've been going for debate competition on a provincial state level India mein, and winning, mind you. So my habit, I just keep speaking. I apologize. I'm sorry.
No need of sorry.
अभिषेक जी अब आगे बढ़ सकते हैं कार्यक्रम में.
Okay, thank you so much. I have shared a PPT there. Might be आप सभी लोगों को दिख रही होगी. Now I call Shri Bhuvan ji to explain you about विद्या भारती उत्तराखंड. आप विद्या भारती के बारे में कुछ बताएंगे? जी.
डॉक्टर रागिनी दीदी जी, धीरेन्द्र जी, संजय जी, पार्थिव जी, क्षितिज जी, सभी का अभिनंदन भी है. इतनी दूर बैठे हुए भारत के बारे में विचार ही नहीं कर रहे हैं और वहां से भारत की आत्मा के बारे में चिंतन, दृष्टिकोण भारत में रहने वाले लोगों से भी अधिक कर रहे हैं. इसके लिए धन्यवाद के पात्र भी हैं, हम सबके लिए प्रेरणा के स्रोत भी हैं. आज जैसा कि अभिषेक जी आपने विषय रखा था राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति और उसका क्रियान्वयन, जैसे धीरेन्द्र शुक्ला जी ने कहा भी कि ये नई पॉलिसी कहीं कॉपी पेस्ट तो नहीं हो जाएगी. यही बड़ा काम है कि बहुत प्रकार से इसमें विचार किया गया है. विद्या भारती अपने राष्ट्रीय स्वयं सेवक संघ से जुड़े हुए जितने भी शिक्षा से जुड़े हुए संगठन हैं, सब ने बहुत मंथन किया है. आम समाज के द्वारा भी इसमें किया गया है. वो सब विषय आगे जाकर जमीन पर उतरेंगे. क्रियान्वयन का बड़ा काम है. मैं अभी विद्या भारती उत्तराखंड के बारे में थोड़ी जानकारी आप सबके सामने रख रहा हूँ. विद्या भारती उत्तराखंड के अंतर्गत 650 विद्यालय हमारे चलते हैं. यहाँ 650 विद्यालय चलते हैं और 13 जिले हैं. 13 जिलों में से सभी जिलों में चलते हैं. अभिषेक जी थोड़ा आगे बढ़ाइए. तो 13 जिलों में चलते हैं. इसमें से हमारे जो पढ़ाने वाले आचार्य हैं, अध्यापक हैं, टीचर हैं, 5,188 टीचर इनको पढ़ाते हैं. 1,19,940 विद्यार्थी स्टूडेंट इन विद्यालयों में पढ़ते हैं. सबसे बड़ा काम उत्तराखंड के अंतर्गत 2 देश लगते हैं. एक तिब्बत लगता है, दूसरा नेपाल लगता है. तिब्बत में इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि देर सवेर भारत को ही चीन से तिब्बत अलग करना है. हम सब भारतीय उसको चीन की सीमा न बोलकर तिब्बत बोलने का प्रयास करेंगे तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा. तो इन तिब्बत और नेपाल से लगने वाले करीब 150 विद्यालय हैं उत्तरकाशी जिला है, चंपावत जिला है, पिथौरागढ़ जिला है। इन तीनों जिलों से ये अपनी सीमाएं लगती हैं। इन तीन ही सीमाओं पर अपने विद्यालय बहुत सुचारू रूप से काम कर रहे हैं। यदि मैं जिले वाइज आंकड़ा रखूंगा तो अभी से थोड़ा बढ़ाते जाइए। ये विद्यालय के चित्र हैं। ये पिथौरागढ़ का अपना विद्यालय है जो नेपाल और तिब्बत से सीमा से तो 150 किलोमीटर अंदर ही है ये विद्यालय। अब इसे भी थोड़ा बढ़ाइए। और ये ये अपना कुल आंकड़ा हमने इसमें रखा है, थोड़ा आगे बढ़ाइए। इसमें कुल कितने स्टूडेंट पढ़ते हैं, कितने स्कूल से नंबर हैं, कितने टीचर्स नंबर हैं, सब हमने लिख रखे हैं। और अभिषेक जी, तो इसमें मैं 2-3 ही बातें आप सबसे निवेदन करना चाहता हूं। उत्तराखंड के अंदर सीमाओं से पलायन है। इस पलायन को रोकने के कुछ कारण विद्या भारती करती है। 3 बातों के लिए उत्तराखंड में कठिनाइयां हैं। एक शिक्षा है, स्वास्थ्य है, रोजगार है। स्वास्थ्य और रोजगार में हम उतना नहीं कर सकते अभी। शिक्षा से जुड़े हुए हम संस्था हैं, इसलिए आप सबका भी सहयोग हमको प्राप्त होगा। आप सब लोग सहयोग करते भी हैं। सहयोग से मतलब है कि कोई ऐसी आर्थिक सहयोग की बात मैं नहीं कर रहा, मनोबल बढ़ाने का काम। और हम जिस काम पर लगे हैं सीमा के इस क्षेत्र में, आपका सतत हमको मिलना जुलना, उठना बैठना, ऐसे संवाद बना रहेगा तो हमारे लिए बहुत अच्छा काम होगा। और आप सबका स्वागत है। इतनी बात कहकर आप सबका आभार प्रकट करता हूं। धन्यवाद।
अभिषेक जी,
Yes. Thank you so much, Bhuvanji, for sharing your thoughts. And I will explain you. Bhuvanji is handling all the 700 schools of Vidya Bharati Uttarakhand. And Uttarakhand is very tough location. There is maximum a mountain region, and our maximum schools are running on the border areas, Indo-China border, Indo-Nepal border. So जहाँ पर गवर्नमेंट के स्कूल भी नहीं है, वहां पर हमारे स्कूल चलते हैं. So now I will explain you something about a technology initiative. Its name is Planet School. This is kind of a unified education system. Planet School nominated by Government of India for UNESCO nomination. It's a technology product. And this is a 3 kind of pillar. Planet School digital ecosystem is a kind of upgrade model, and pedagogy upgradation is totally technology initiative. With this is the letter, and the she's a Smriti Ji Irani. She's education minister in 2014 to 2015, central minister. This is a kind of we have a studio where we are creating a educational content by the Vidya Bharati teachers. We have around 6,000 teachers in Uttarakhand. Those created educational videos for their schools. And we have connected more than 15 countries where we have multiple exchange programs like Finland, Estonia, Kyrgyzstan. So we have already connected, and those teachers of Finland, Kyrgyzstan, Estonia visited in Uttarakhand in our schools mainly. So in future, we are trying to do same thing with Canada. We are trying with the help of you guys, and we are also trying to make a content in multiple languages. So these guys created a content, basic content in French, not in French basically, is in a Russian, in a different languages. So these kind of exchange program with Estonia, like culture exchange program, educational activities with lots of, we have done in 2015 to 2020. We have done lots of work in the using technology like webinars and all. So thank you so much. This is kind of technology which we are doing in Uttarakhand. Thank you so much. Over to you, Aditya ji. I think this time is, Aditya ji, is around 9. So if you have 9 p.m. in India.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we can finish now.
Yes. If you some questions you have, else Dr. Vijay
Yeah.
Walji, and in the last for the
In
thank
the
you
last,
message.
Vijaypalji can conclude. So if
Okay.
any panelist can have some questions, they can write to us. Like Sanjay ji has make some objection or some questions that it is not copy paste. So we will try to answer your all of the questions. So if any question or any doubt is there regarding the education policy or any suggestions that we are not able to make it in this session, so you can write to us or in that session, and we will try to make it to the Education Department of India, like National Education Minister. We will share the same panel. What is the panel output? So we will share the same thing with the Education Minister. So you can share the questions if you are having some. Okay. So now, Abhishek ji, we can conclude with the final remarks.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'll call to Dr. Vijay Palji for the final remarks. Before, I have a request to all the panelists to how can we continue our both India-Canada relations in education. Suppose like you are uh, Aditya ji told us about Hindu Heritage Month. How can we do something in that, like our students do something in this event, or something our student listen at that event, something what we can do together. So I request you are for the thank you message. I call Dr. Vijay Palji. Dr. Vijay Palji, please.
I think we lost him.
Yes, I think so. I'm trying to connect him. So what do you think before I think that in last 2-3 minutes, what we can do together and how can we do something in future? So what do you think, Dhirendra ji?
Abhishek ji?
Yeah, I think he's back. So
Okay, sure. Yes, Vijay ji, please.
अभिषेक जी
जी बताइए.
आवाज आ रही है?
जी आ रही है.
नमस्ते एवरीवन. अभिषेक जी, कैन आई स्पीक इन इंग्लिश इन हिंदी?
Yes, please.
तो इस आज के इस राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति का जो क्रियान्वयन का कार्यक्रम था, उसमें हमारे साथ इस वेबिनार में उपस्थित डॉक्टर धीरेन्द्र शुक्ला जी, डॉक्टर रागिनी शर्मा जी, डॉक्टर संजय वर्मा जी, श्री पार्थी कांदवेल जी और श्री क्षितिज आनंद जी, मैं आप सबका अभिनंदन करता हूं, स्वागत करता हूं. और आपने बहुत सुंदर यहाँ पर भारत की जो नई शिक्षा नीति बनी है उसके संबंध में रखे और अपना महत्वपूर्ण समय हम सबको दिया. इसके लिए भी हम हृदय से आपके आभारी हैं. आप कनाडा में हिंदू हेरिटेज मंथ मनाते हैं, उसके कार्यक्रम करते हैं, उसके लिए भी हमारी ओर से आप सबको शुभकामनाएं. और हम अपेक्षा करेंगे कि भविष्य में जब आप भारत आए तो हमारे विद्या भारती के विद्यालयों में जरूर विजिट करें और हम निरंतर आपसे संपर्क बना करके रखेंगे. आपने बहुत सुंदर विचार हमारे बीच में रखे और क्षितिज आनंद जी ने तो भारत के इतिहास का जो प्राचीन इतिहास है उसका बहुत सुंदर वर्णन किया और इन सब के लिए हम सब आपके आभारी हैं. आपने सुंदर हमें समय दिया. हमारे जो संगठन मंत्री जी माननीय भुवन जी ने भी हमको इस कार्यक्रम में समय दिया. अपने अभिषेक जी और आदित्य जी, आप सबका भी धन्यवाद. आप सबको भी शुभकामना. आपने सुंदर आयोजन किया और भविष्य में भी हम इस प्रकार के आयोजनों को और बढ़ाते रहेंगे. इतनी शुभकामना के साथ अपनी बात को पूरी करता हूँ. धन्यवाद.
I request to all, how can your final comments for all, one line, one statement. How can we do something together in future? How can we do something? Please, Dhirendra ji, how can we do something together in future?
I think these type of conversations can't be one-off. Firstly, how do we continue these dialogues and conversations? And it would be worthwhile that we explore this further. Right? It can't be just at a university level. It has to be at multiple levels. We brought in schools. I'm obviously connected to the to the provincial level here. So if there's an interest in deeper collaboration at a school level, I can easily make introductions at all levels of government. So those are non-issues, but it should be specific. Like what I want to be careful about is this collaboration can't be that the conversation about cut and paste. How can it be mutual respect, mutual benefit, and growth of respect and learning for each other? So if we can identify what is important, what is of strategic benefit from an Indian context, from a school context for the youth in India, then we can all, I think all the panelists here can come together and rally to make those outcomes happen. So if that can be identified, we can all work to making that happen. And that is core. हम लोग सब इंडिया से बहुत प्यार करते हैं, इन लोगों से बहुत प्यार करते हैं. तो अगर आप सोच लिए कि ये करना है और ठान लिए, तो वो तो हो ही जाएगा, उसमें तो कोई क्वेश्चन ही नहीं है. पर आप सोच लीजिए क्या करना है.
Getting Dhirendra ji. We'll summarize the complete event and send you something email what we can do something together, then took your opinion on them, recommendations, something, whatever. So your final comment, Ragini ji.
It's been wonderful to listen to all the panelists and so wonderful to hear about your work. I would definitely like to remain involved and need to think about. I can send you some resources. I can make some suggestions based on what I have said. So yeah, let's all do some manthan and think about how we can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sanjay ji, your final comment, sir.
Yeah, like अच्छा लगा इस प्रकार का डायलॉग जो है भारत और कनाडा के बीच में जो हो रहा है. And like I mean, I am not in the education industry एक प्रकार से, तो लेकिन यहाँ पर अगर RSS जो हिंदू स्वयंसेवक संघ है या सेवा कनाडा के माध्यम से अगर हमसे कुछ बन पड़ता है, at this moment I think Ajay Bisaria, he is the High Commission of this thing, ambassador over here, and he is pretty proactive with the Indian community, so we can always approach him. So एक प्रकार का we'll have to shortlist the list of things which are achievable in consultation with Parthi and Dhirendra ji, I mean all of us together, and perhaps then we can take it to the respective people whether it can be how we can partner in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Your final comment, Parthi ji, please.
First of all, thank you for organizing this. Is very useful, very productive, good conversation. My final thought is in order to be productive, there needs to be action. So we should have follow-up meetings, and the people responsible for making the change, the senior officials in Vidya Bharati or the Ministry of Education, whether it's the minister or the senior civil servants who run the administration, if they have any questions, if we can be of any use, we can make time, and because those are the people responsible for running the schools. So whatever advice we can give, and also in turn we can learn I think it's a mutual benefit. So I think that's the focus should be, what are the actions and how is it executed and implemented within the Vidya Bharati system or in the ministry schools. So always here to be of any assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Actually, Vidya Bharati have in only in Uttarakhand, we have more than 1.5 lakh students and around 700 teachers. And all over Vidya Bharati, we have around 12,500 schools and 35 lakh students. So our kind of we have a huge influence in the ground, and we are totally working on the ground stage.
One quick question.
Yes, please.
Is the Vidya Bharati, is it funded privately or does the government support it all?
No, it's non-government organization. It's totally private organization.
Are there tuition fees?
Sorry?
Are there tuition fees? Do the students pay?
Yes, it's taking a nominal fees. Actually, we are trying to, where is no education, we are running our schools in those regions. Like in border areas, like in mountain regions. So we have,
Actually,
but we have a good influence in the ground level.
Partiji, you will be surprised that in the COVID-19 time now, we will be having some schools where even students are not paying their fees and teachers are even not getting their livelihood. So our alumni groups are making contribution to fulfill the needs of those schools, like in the border areas where even food are not available, even students are not going. So our alumni group is organizing those expenses there actually.
That's
So
very,
alumni
very
group
good
is
to hear.
also doing very good. They are making regular contribution in that. If some school is not up to the benchmark, they are making contribution. There is one alumni from Almora. He is living in UK, so he has make some building over there. So alumni group is also very strong of Vidya Bharati. So they are making contribution in those areas also where even where government cannot think that we can run a school. We are running there.
Okay. Final comment, Kshitij.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Very, very grateful, very, very thankful. And I think I agree with everyone else. We need to have regular such sessions and maybe separate sessions for, more youth oriented, like, we can have a sample of students. They can discuss their concerns and we can go from there. But yeah, that's all.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all to giving us such important time to us. We'll definitely continue all things. We'll draft it an email what we can do together and all your points which we have discussed today. So thank you so much. Over to you, Aditya ji.
Thank you. Now we can wind up. Namaste to everyone.
Namaste.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.